What passion or dream have you been putting off? And how can you take the first step towards achieving it? That's what you've been asked in today's daily episode.
That is a great question, and I look forward to answering it here today with all of you. Thank you for having me today on Find Yourself, the Questions podcast, with a special Gateway episode.
I'm Bernd Wenske, your host and trusty co-pilot on this journey to self-discovery and personal growth. This podcast is designed to be a personal challenge for you as the listener to have the greatest possible freedom without pressure or control. Welcome to another Gateway episode of Find Yourself the Questions podcast, where we explore the power of introspection and self-discovery through meaningful conversations with extraordinary guests. Today we have a remarkable guest here to help us start our course to personal growth, financial freedom, career success, and community goals. She's not only an accomplished author, but also a true adventurer in life. Joining us today is Aliki Samone, a dynamic entrepreneur whose journey seamlessly blends science and creativity. She's a singer-songwriter, a creative author, and an abstract artist who finds solace in the great outdoors. After a successful spacecraft design and program management career, Aliki followed her passion and built her own businesses. What truly sets Aliki apart in her summit method, a holistic life planning approach. Her method is all about conquering your summits and becoming the best version of yourself. She's here to discuss her new book, Conquer Your Summit: How to Build a 5-Year Plan and Live Your Best Life, and share valuable insights on personal growth, financial freedom, career success, and the importance of community goals. Aliki's journey is one of transformation and resilience. From her early days as an aerospace engineer to becoming vice president of program management and ultimately pursuing her passions in art, music, and entrepreneurship, she's a shining example of how careful life planning can lead in extraordinary success. So if you've ever pondered the path to success, unsure of where to start, or craving a life filled with purpose and adventure, this episode is for you. Aliki is here to inspire us to reach for the stars and conquer our own summits. Aliki Samone, welcome to Find Yourself the Questions podcast. We are thrilled to have you on the show.
Hello. Thank you for having me here on the show. I'm excited to talk about the question and, more importantly, jump into how we will expand that in this Gateway episode.
Very fun. You're welcome. So all of you stay tuned as we embark on a transformative journey with Aliki Samone and explore the summit method for living our best lives. You won't want to miss this Gateway episode of Find Yourself the Questions podcast. Aliki, please tell me in a few words, what is a method to finding your purpose?
Your purpose, I want to start with, is, so important. We all need to have and find our purpose, because this is what drives us. This is what, when times get rough or, there's bumps on the road, if you have taken some time to find your purpose, you look back on that why. You look at that and say, this is why I'm going to keep going. This is why I'm working on my personal growth. This is why I want to, get to a better version of myself. So first off, very important that, you ask this question, because I think we all know that. We all want to have a purpose. We all want to have that drive in life. But your question is, how? How do you get that purpose, basically? In my book, Conquer Your Summit: How to Build a 5-Year Plan and Live Your Best Life, I talk about a dedicated approach to actually finding that purpose. In fact, it's the first chapter of the book, because I think, before you can even think about a 5-year plan or how to get to where you want to go, you need to have that mental state set. And so I go through a process where I take the readers through about a 4 to 5 step mind map. And if you've never done a mind map, it's basically setting a timer for 5 minutes and letting all of your thoughts really flow on paper. There's no bad ideas. You just write everything down based on a central, question in the middle of the page, where in the case of finding your purpose, you're going to ask questions like, what does my ideal life look like? What are some events or people or emotions from my past that have deeply affected me? And when you think about the past and you think about what's, really driving you, and you also think about this future, this ideal state of what you'd love your life to be, you can start building up some themes and pictures around, I think my life purpose is that I want to help people, and I want to, or I want to become an artist that creates pieces of work that are in the community to inspire others. And you basically come up with all these different ideas until you have, 1 to 3 that really speak to your spirit. And you drive down to them so that when you need them, you can review your passions, review your why, your purpose, and feed that into your everyday life. And there are ways in my book where I talk about, daily execution and little habits that help you remember these things. But to find your purpose, it's about taking the time to clear your mind and write down all the ideas that come to your head. Clear out the day-to-day flurry and focus on what really truly is feeding your soul.
Sounds truly fascinating, Aliki. Let's start a moment earlier. So how did you come to pay attention to personal growth, finance, career, and community? Can you share a pivotal moment in your life that inspired you to pursue the path of self-improvement and personal growth?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So a little bit over 10 years ago, I started working on this exact path that you're talking about. I had, grown up and I went to college and became an aerospace engineer, started my first job. I was starry-eyed and excited about what life could bring for me, and quickly realized that I had been spending the last, 18 to 20 years working to that moment, working to go to school and get a job. Now what? And that was my turning point, which was, what do I do now? Because just getting a job is awesome and it's very important. And I hope that people, can find a job like I did that I really enjoyed, but I wanted more out of life. And that's when, I started really honing into my dreams and passions, which have always been in music and art. Yes, I have the science part of my brain, which is what led me towards aerospace engineering and designing spacecraft, but I was missing a part of, my soul or my spirit. And in that turning point in my early 20s, I realized I didn't know what to do. I felt like I was spiraling. We all, regardless of what age or what point you are in life, we all go through transition, and we all go through kind of this spiraling feeling that's like, what am I doing with my life? What should I be doing? Mm-hmm. And the difference was I said, I'm going to create a method. I'm going to create a plan for what I can do to help this personal growth. Personal growth being my passions, Do I want to travel? Do I want more education and to learn, different items, building in music, hobbies, spirituality? All of these different pieces feed into our personal growth. And I wanted to focus on that. So that was my turning point.
Your journey from spacecraft design to pursuing your artistic passions is inspiring. So what motivated you to make that transition? And what advice do you have for listeners considering a significant career change?
Absolutely. As I mentioned before, I have this right brain, left brain situation with music and science, and I've always been that way since a child. But I went into aerospace and my career, which took most of my time, right? And I think a lot of us can resonate when we either have to go in a certain direction or we choose to go in a certain direction. And oftentimes it doesn't include our passion or our dream. And it eats at you. You are reminded of them occasionally. Every time I pass walking down the street and I saw someone playing beautiful music, on the street, I'm both happy and overjoyed to hear their art, but a piece of me is sad because I'm like, man, I want to be doing music.
Yes,
what am
the
I
others
doing?
do.
Well, why aren't I doing this? And that's really hard on all of us. And it's not a great way to work towards personal growth and self-improvement. So I made a decision that if I didn't really take time to do something about it, to find my purpose, to think about my why, I was going to live like that. I was going to have regrets and wonder what life was like if I, had put more of my passion or dreams into it. So my advice and what I did is that little by little, you need to start incorporating that dream or that passion into your life. My example, let's say, is extreme. I was an aerospace engineer who wanted to be a professional musician performing at live shows, for hundreds of people. That's a big jump in what you're doing. So I tell you that because I think other people can resonate. If you have a big dream or goal, it's really easy to see it as it's at the top of this mountain peak. It's at the, I got to figure out how to conquer that summit. It looks very challenging. And then we never get there because we put it on such a high pedestal of accomplishment.
Yeah.
So if you start figuring out little by little how to get there, that is how you just start breaking and chipping away. So like I mentioned before, do a mind map.
Mm-hmm.
Write out all of your dreams and passions for 5 minutes. And then take out a couple that, seem to pop out the most for you and write your 1 to 5 list. This is what are the exact next steps that you would need to do, the mini steps, the micro steps to get there. What are they? And when I did that activity, I realized, my big dream was I wanted to record my album and release my music to people. But I put that on top of a giant summit way up here, just like a lot of you are putting your big goals up there in the future.
Yeah.
I said, what is the next step? Well, I really just need to write out what songs do I want to put on my album? List out 5 recording studios and call them, gather the facts, get information together. And slowly but surely, because I detailed out some small mini steps to get there, I was unblocked and I could actually start in parallel. I didn't immediately go quit my aerospace job. I say this, answer because I want people to know that if you just write out some of your mini steps to get there, you may find that you can start accomplishing your passions and dreams even now, even with, a challenging day job or lots of things going on in your life. You've got kids, you've got responsibilities. Take it 1 step at a time.
Mm-hmm. So if I get it right, our listeners who want to implement some goals in their life, they should start with a vision board and then break it down to easy steps, that they can follow. Is it right?
Exactly. Easy steps. And then write those 3 easy steps on your door. You know, when you leave your house each day, you see those 3 steps. Put them on your mirror when you get into the bathroom in the morning. Put it on, your nightstand. Wherever you need to remind yourself, oh yeah, I'm working towards those little steps, because
very good idea.
Yeah.
Many people, they need help with setting and achieving their goals. Can you walk us through creating a 5-year plan and why it's essential for personal growth?
Sure. In my book, I talk about 3 main phases: the mental tools phase, the planning tool phase, and the execution phase. Now, we talked a little bit already about mental tools, that we need to find our purpose and, focus on that. The second one is planning tools. So I go over this dedicated approach that I call the summit method, which involves this summit event. And at the event, that is where you are going to sit down for a half day to a full day and actually use some of the templates that I've written out in my book, or create your own based on the fundamentals of what's being discussed, and start writing your plans. That sounds, oh, great. That sounds easy. Or, Aliki, you didn't really tell us what we need to do to create a 5-year plan. Exactly. So let's jump a little bit into that. You get to the summit event and you have several mind maps where you're going to look at personal growth, financial freedom, career success, and community impact. You're going to say, okay, what does my ideal life or my ideal thoughts look like for those 4 pillars? This helps us set a long-term goal. And the key to 5-year planning is to make what I call a planning sandwich, right? And like any good sandwich, we have some delicious bread of your choice on top and bottom, but a sandwich is nothing without all of the ingredients inside. You get to pick the ingredients to your life planning sandwich. But the key is you have to start with the bottom of the bread, which is today. So you're going to sit down and record your current state and where are you on all of your personal goals, financial, career, and community work. Just write it all out. And we talked about mental tools because sometimes it's not easy to look at your today's state, depending on, your situation, because maybe you're trying to create a 5-year plan because you want to change your situation. You want to grow. Well, take a deep breath and you have to make sure you start with the bottom piece of bread and you write down what your current state is. Then, like I mentioned initially, the ideal state mind maps that you're going to create to know your longer term goals, that's the bread on top. So you'll write out, oh, you know what? One day I want to be a director of so-and-so at my company, or I would like to start my own community organization, or I would like to have a family with kids and, own a house in the country. Whatever your dream is, whatever goals you have, those are out there in the future. They're the top of your planning sandwich. So let's talk about those ingredients inside.
Yeah.
In order to create a 5-year plan, you need to have the steps to get from your current state to where you want to go. And that is basically what you will be doing in this summit event. You're sitting down and taking the dedicated time away from the hustle and bustle of life and family, friends, just close yourself off from the world for half a day and say, what are the steps that I need to take to get from my current state to this dream goal? Rather than thinking of the dream goal as a giant mountain peak, we just talked about this a little bit when I was mentioning how I, got to my passion. It's no different. It's breaking up and creating the small steps to achieve that goal. Maybe I'll give you one example. Maybe you're trying to either, get to the gym and lose weight, or you're trying to get to the gym because you want to strengthen up and, become a bodybuilder, or any version of a health goal in between. One of the first steps might be signing up for the gym. And it seems so silly and simple, but if you just write out the steps, you don't have to think of it as, oh my gosh, I gotta figure out how to strengthen myself up and become a bodybuilder. That's tough. That's a lot of work. So stop one step at a time. All right, I gotta sign up for the gym. Now I've got to research what kind of, routine I want to do. I'm going to watch some YouTube videos and learn from others who are experts. Always want to surround yourself with people that are in the life you want to be in. Mm-hmm. And you learn from them and you write them out in detail in this 5-year plan, where then you can take all of those mini steps and say, okay, which years am I going to work on those mini steps for both all of the 4 pillars: personal, financial, career, and community impact. And at the end of your activity, at the end of your summit event, you should have a plan that you are now excited about, that you can execute to. And I'll leave this topic with the following sentence. A 5-year plan is not set in stone. A lot of people fear them because they're like, well, I can't think that far in advance, or I don't want to be locked into something for 5 years. It's not like that. You're going to revisit your plan often. And when you're ready to change it, you change it. It is a flexible plan. The point is, you took the time to think about your life, to see where you want to go, and to chart a course to hike up there and conquer each of those summits that you have in life.
Yeah, I understand. So it's important to have the plan, but if you already have a plan, you're able to adapt this plan to things that happen in life, and life happens always. Yeah. It's important to maintain mental sharpness, I think. What daily habits or practices have helped you to keep your mind focused and resilient on your journey?
Absolutely. I find that I do best by making sure I take the first portion of my day to clear my mind. I wake up and I do 10 minutes of meditation while also doing some light stretching. And I mentioned this very specific item because I think the best tips for all of you out there is give yourself mental time and space. I do it by meditation, so that you don't jump into your day kind of frazzled into what needs to be done and, getting lost in all of the activity. Give yourself that clarity. And at the end of your clarity moment, whether it's meditation, whether, it's just taking a few moments to do some deep breathing or stretching, whatever version you need to be disconnected, then open your eyes and get yourself either to a notebook or a paper that you're going to put on your wall, in your office, in your bedroom, wherever it is best for you, that either has your affirmations, these statements of, I am going to do this, or I am successful, whatever your affirmations are for you, look at them and see this vision board that you've also created. And you mentioned vision board earlier in this chat. And that's kind of the last thing I do every morning is I see visually all of my goals. I see a picture of, a woman in the recording studio recording music. And when I see that, I'm like, yeah, I'm working on getting my album done. And I may not be doing that today. It's not on the schedule, but I'm looking at it and reminding myself that those things on my vision board are important.
Yeah.
And that daily reminder is not to try to make us like stressed out or sad that we're not doing those things. It's because I'm sure you can all imagine that one day you go to sleep and then you wake up 6 months later, you're like, oh man, I was going to work on that, or I was going to do X, Y, or Z. And now you have no excuses, to get through daily execution or execution habits to your question. You really just need to show yourself daily. What are those goals? What are you working toward? So you can fuel yourself with the passion from your purpose.
Let's change location. So you're an advocate for a great outdoors and adventure. How has nature influenced your personal development, and how can our listeners tap into the power of nature for self-improvement?
For those of you who haven't read my book, I'll point out that the nature comments come from, I chose to use imagery of nature throughout my book. As you're going through trying to figure out your goals and your purpose, I like to think, or throughout my book, I talk about how you're basically saying, okay, let's get ready for this hike. Well, in order to get ready for a hike, you need to pack. What do you need to pack in your backpack? All right, let's pack, for me in a real life, it's okay, I got to wake up and I'm going to do a 20-mile day hike today up into the mountain peaks. I need to make sure I have enough water. I need to have food. I got to plan that out. Where's my map? What's my path? What are my goals? What am I looking to see, if you will? And then when am I going to get back? What's the rest of my day look like? So I love nature because it's so peaceful. I find the most clarity when I am, traveling around the United States, going to all these national parks and kayaking in rivers and lakes, and just being at peace with something that is so pure. Looking up at the pine trees, or staring down on alpine lakes. For those of you who haven't had that opportunity, I encourage you to hopefully get to a point where you can go and just disconnect in nature, because nature is truly magical to help us clear our minds and have this clarity for where we want to go, which is why I put all the imagery into my book. It is something that I believe in. It's something I find my, solace and grace in nature. So the book travels that way. We got to pack our backpack, put in our mental tools, get all our planning tools together, put in our backpack, and start hiking to these different mountains of success. These mountains of success are personal growth, financial freedom, career success, and community impact. We start conquering those summits. And then because we've gone through the process of learning how to be in nature and conquer each of these goals, you've learned the skills to continue to conquer your summits over and over again, because it's not always one mountain. When I go and climb up into the Glacier Mountains near Canada, you get to the top of these peaks and you see miles and miles of more mountains, of more beautiful sights that you would love to go and explore. And that's what life should be like too. When you get to your goals, or you get to a point where you feel like you could be victorious, look out at nature, look out at your life and say, cool, I now have the skills to go conquer that mountain and that mountain. And you know what? Hiking is also not a solo activity. Bring your friends along, bring your family along, and say, let's all, figure out how to be in nature. Or let's all figure out how to plan our lives and get towards our goals, bring them along too.
The community aspect is also very useful to help us stand our life and be connected with others and live a beautiful life. And it seems that you can live a stressless and fascinating life. But could you share a specific challenge or a setback that you faced along your journey? What lessons did you learn from that experience?
This is a good question. I want to pick a good one to speak on. So I'll talk about this one. My setback was about a year and a half ago. I was working full-time I was vice president of program management at a startup aerospace company out in California. And even though I had not only studied aerospace engineering, but I had been working in the aerospace industry for 10 years, I needed a change. I didn't want to do that anymore, or at least for a little while. I wanted to take some time away from that corporate 9-to-5 life and try to explore something else. And that was a big hurdle. Working in a startup environment can be very challenging. I had to work with a lot of, different personalities and long days. It added up, the stress and mental churn, the mental health that I had in that position kind of degraded over time. And when I left, I decided to leave that company and actually take time to find clarity and figure out what my next path in life was going to be, or at least temporarily. Maybe I was going to go back into aerospace, but I just needed some time. It was unbelievably difficult to figure out what I should be doing. I now had time. I said, I'll take a couple of months off and, try to figure out if I wanted to build my own business, if I wanted to try to find a career in art and music, or go jump into a different industry. What did it look like? And I was unprepared for how challenging it was going to be in my mental space to have that time alone with my own thoughts. Mm-hmm. And so I would say that was one of my biggest hurdles, but it was also what opened up my life to some of the greatest things that have happened to me. I took the time to read some books. I highly encourage, people to make sure to keep reading books, pick up random books. The more we educate ourselves, whether it's, a fiction book or a nonfiction book, it's just helping your brain think in a different way. I did that. And I realized I wasn't doing that. I was so busy all the time for the last, 10 years before that, living day to day and jumping into work and this and that I was able to finally see this bright, shiny, starry light of life. And it unlocked me to continue to use the Summit method, which is something that I built up over the last 10 years. It's something you do every quarter. And I never stopped doing that, even with all of the things going on in life. But I realized, wow, this Summit method, after I quit my job and I went through spiraling of what was I doing with my life, really helped me get out of that. How can I help others who may be feeling the same also get there? So my most challenging part of the last several years, which was trying to transition out of a challenging work scenario, really fed into now the best. I was able to write a book and build, this coaching business and try to help others figure out how to get to their next step. I had to go through my own emotional hurdles and challenges to get there. And so I extend a lot of that experience when I'm helping others.
There are a lot of people out there who have struggles being with themselves, just being silent and thinking of themselves, being with themselves, planning for themselves, and not being led by impulses, by energies, by orders from the out. Do you think your summit method is the best way for those people who struggle living their own life and getting in touch with themselves and standing silent moments? Would be good to follow your method and take their path step by step?
Absolutely. So I'm going to answer, logically, I think people would want to say, of course, I didn't write this book. I want everyone to use it. But my answer is actually going to be, first, you have to ask yourself what kind of person you are and how you learn, what resonates with you. Because there are a lot of books, programs, YouTube videos, mentors, masterminds out there that are very successful and very useful to answering that exact question, to being what you should follow to help get yourself out of a spiral and to where you want to be. And a lot of them are very business minded. I mean, there are plenty of business books out there that will tell you all about how to get to your objectives and, reach success in either your corporation or your small business. And they're awesome. They have really great, easy, quick techniques on how to do that. Some people, that's how their brain thinks. They're very straightforward business minded, and their personal growth and their life is architected around that straightforward mentality.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to build something a little bit different with Conquer Your Summit and the Summit Method. For those who don't necessarily resonate with the corporate mentality of and seriousness of the world, my method is for those of you who want to take a more of a holistic approach to life. I believe it's why I have the 4 pillars. I believe you have to look at your personal growth. You have to look at all of those things that you want to do with your life, travel, education, and hobbies, and all of those pieces. You have to look at your financials, because the world does work on money. And so you have to try to make sure you're aligned so that you can reach some of these goals and work with your career. And you have to do your career work, because whether you're, a gig worker and you're working all kinds of different jobs, or you have a corporate position, everybody's career is really just how you make money. And so what is your plan for that? How is that feeding into your financial plan, which feeds into your personal growth? And then last but not least is community. Now, community really should be first for everyone, right? The reason I list it last is because community is this support. It's this remaining, giant sphere of influence around us. It supports all of the other pillars. We have to have our friends and our family and all of our, external people like coworkers and people we meet in public to be with us on this journey. And that is why I resonate with, yes, I created it, but I resonate with my method and the Summit Method with Conquer Your Summit, because it takes an approach of looking at more of all of the pieces of your life versus just how do I create goals and conquer my goals, or how do I set good habits to get to where I want to be. Those are all great things, and there are wonderful methods and books for that, which I highly, recommend diving into. It's always good to know multiple methods. But yes, I think that my method is for those of you who want something a little bit more personal, down to earth, and every day.
Aliki, your life story is a testament for the importance of balance. How do you maintain equilibrium in your life between career, personal growth, and your creative pursuits?
Equilibrium is very challenging. I'm not going to, pretend like it's super easy to make sure that you can do all of the things that you want to do with life. But it goes back to, setting good expectations for yourself. There's only so many hours in the day, so you can't beat yourself up if you don't get to everything. But you have that vision board that you're looking at, and I make sure that at least 3 times a week, I'm doing something on that vision board. It's very easy to get distracted with work or, I live in a couple of different places in the United States, so I have to travel back and forth for different activities. I get really spiraled up on traveling and getting back home or being with family, but I always make sure to carry my journal around with me. And I pick 3 items that are towards my passions and dreams. And every week I schedule time to make sure that I'm actually doing one of those 3 things, or all 3 of those things. Until you get to a point where it's natural, right? But in the beginning, you have to actually, kind of piece in and schedule that equilibrium. Over time, it's now become more natural for me to make sure that I'm picking up my guitar or, making some art and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, the question was about you, how you found your way and how you do this by your own. Yeah. So everybody has his own plans and rules and strategies how to deal with it. Aliki, what do you think about wrapping up, leaving this podcast? And we do this sharing some tips for the listeners. So do you have 3 tips for them to improve their lives?
Yes, I do. There are 3 tips that I will leave you all with, and it will be a great summary to what we've been talking about. Number 1, you need to set up good mental mindsets, these positive growth mindsets, so that you can carry your purpose and always go back to your why. So have strong mental space. Number 2, you must have a practical planning tool. Make sure you actually either open templates or open a Word document, whatever it is, maybe it's a spreadsheet, and actually have a way or a notebook to actually write your goals down and your plan to accomplish them. So you need practical planning tools. And number 3, you need to establish some version of daily habits for your execution, whether it's writing your goals, by your front door, looking at your notebook, having a vision board, having meditation space like I do. The 3rd thing you need to do is make sure you have daily execution habits.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. It was truly fascinating and I enjoyed talking to you today. Aliki Samone, thank you very much.
Thank you. It's been wonderful to be on this podcast, and I look forward to continuing to work with the community, and please reach out to me.
Thank you for sharing these insights into your summit method. Thank you very much for being on this show, for being a valuable guest, helping all the listeners on their way to find themselves. All the listeners who want to get in contact with you, I'll put a link in the show notes to your book. Find you on social, on Instagram, for example. So we put all the links in the show notes so that people can follow you. Thank you very much, Aliki.
That sounds wonderful. Thank you so much for having me on this podcast. And I look forward to seeing how all of your podcasts in the future continue to evolve.
Thank you very much, Aliki. Thanks to all of you listening and joining us today on the Find Yourself the Questions podcast for mindful self-empowerment and personal growth. I hope this episode inspired you to ask questions and discover yourself. Join us tomorrow for more insight questions and next month for inspirational discussions on your path to personal growth and happiness. Maybe you're just a question away from your best year. Bye-bye.
Bye.